Guys, I thought I would put this by itself so it would be easier to look up. This is a questionnaire. Would you shoot U.S. civilians? Now this was American Survival Guide, November 1994. Okay? In what can only be termed an ominous report, an article in the New American Magazine details a combat arms survey, which was administered to Marines on May 10th of this year at 29 Palms Marine Base in California. Remember, May 10th of 1994. The survey was given to Marine veterans from various units that had participated in either Operation Just Cause in Panama, Desert Storm in Kuwait, or Restore Hope in Somalia. A young Marine who was taking the survey managed to secure and retain an extra copy of the survey. The survey concerns U.S. sovereignty and control over its own armed forces and the ability to delegate that control to the United Nations. It also contained a scenario at the end which was so shocking as to be nearly unbelievable. Respondents to the survey were posed with a number of statements which they were to respond by using a scale that ranged from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Included among these statements, I feel the President of the United States has the authority to pass his responsibility as Commander-in-Chief to the UN Secretary-General. I feel there is no conflict between my oath of office and serving as a UN soldier. I would be willing to volunteer to assignment as a U.S. combat unit under a UN commander. I would like UN member countries, including the U.S., to give the UN all the soldiers necessary to maintain world peace. I would swear by the following code. I am a United Nations fighting person. I serve in the forces which maintain world peace in every nation's way of life. I am prepared to give my life for their defense. At the final statement of the survey, statement number 49, the U.S. government declares a ban on the possession, sale, transportation, and transfer of all non-sporting firearms. A 30-day amnesty period is permitted for these firearms to be turned over to the local authorities. At the end of this period, a number of citizen groups refused to turn over their firearms. Consider the following statement. I would fire upon U.S. citizens who refuse or resist confiscation of firearms banned by the U.S. government. The unnamed Marine who forwarded the survey to the New American said the survey was administered by a Navy commander who indicated that the results of the survey would be used in a paper he was doing for his master's degree. Sounds legit, huh? Yeah. Well, people, I put out a thing not long ago. It's called Waking Up Under UN Command. It's on my site, Fuzzy Fork 8, and you look it up. Now, this is Michael New versus the New World Order. He's the one that said he wasn't going to wear the UN arm patch. They asked him to exchange it. Now, he had deployed one time in an operation, a UN operation, earlier, about a year before that. But he just thought this was really strange this time, because it was going to be different. They were required a battalion to significantly alter their uniforms by removing the U.S. flag from the right shoulder, the senior side of the U.S. Army battle dress uniform, to the left shoulder, and replace the flag with a UN patch, a badge, and insignia, and they would also wear a UN blue beret or helmet, which seemed unusual requirement because they didn't do this before. He had sworn to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and obey the orders of the President and those with authority over me. But the Army enlistment oath does not bind me to any blind obedience, but goes on to say, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God. And as he said this oath, and he understood what he was doing here, they don't become American soldiers anymore. Their loyalty becomes to the United Nations. Now here, he had a Marine colonel, retired Marine colonel, Ronald D. Ray, was helping him out. He was also a Vietnam combat veteran and historian. He said he was ignited by his stand. He also he had to wear that he had a belly full of limited no-win United Nations wars, probably from his time in Vietnam. Some of you may be veterans of the Korean War. Korea was the first limited United Nations war in which victory was not the primary objective. I'll zoom in a little bit more. I want you to know this. Orders began coming from New York instead of Washington, D.C. And General MacArthur, who said, in war there is no substitute for victory, had to be relieved of command, because his kind of winning attitude had to be eliminated. Then came Vietnam. It badly marked a generation of men. They were deceived by their political leaders, fought half a world away when real battle was being fought here in the heart and soul of America. It seemed that we learned how the UN military wages peace in places like Korea and Vietnam and Somalia, Bosnia and Macedonia, but it's still the same limited, no-win UN wars. Now, if you get a chance, people, like I said, go watch Waking Up Under UN Command when our soldiers were finding out that why we couldn't win any wars, because like he said here, you know, this was all coming from your orders weren't coming from Washington, D.C., they were coming from New York. That's where the United Nations is located. And you got to remember, they're a League of Nations. Remember that. Our first League of Nations, they voted out. But that's why we could never win a war, because everybody knew what was going on before the Americans even made a move. There was an admiral here. He ran into the same problem. Admiral Jerry Bordea killed himself rather than be recognized as a sailor who wore unauthorized insignia. Spec 4 Michael New was thrown out of the Army for refusing to wear unauthorized insignia. Now this is the kind of stuff that our soldiers are up against. They're not going into a war to fight it. They're going into a police action where they can get killed. And there's no compensation for it. What these people, they were given guidelines as a UN peacekeeping force and identification cards. The only identification document U.S. soldiers and as UN personnel are required to carry on UN military missions. New is not an anti-UN soldier. He served on UN Operation Southern Watch in Kuwait in October and November of 1993, but in his regulation U.S. Army battle dress uniform and under U.S. commanders in support of a UN military operation. But what Clinton was doing was bypassing Congress. Now, one of the things that they were worried about here, I'm going to zoom this in once more. Okay. He is fighting your fight to keep America free of international control. Once the military forces of the United States are under direction of the United Nations, then they can be used against American citizens as peacekeepers in times of national emergency. Just Wanted you to know that. Thanks for watching.